There is a place that doesn't officially exist. No government claims it. No maritime authority has ever drawn its borders on a map. It has no legal name, no coordinates, no internationally recognized boundaries, and yet it has swallowed ships whole. It has erased planes from the sky. It has killed, or so the story goes, more than 1,000 people without leaving a single body behind. The Bermuda Triangle. But here's what nobody tells you. The real story isn't about what disappeared inside it. It's about why we invented it in the first place. And that story, that one, is far stranger than any sea monster. Let's start with something most people don't know. The Bermuda Triangle didn't exist until 1964. Not as a concept, not as a name, not as anything. For centuries, ships crossed that stretch of ocean between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda without anyone thinking twice. Yes, some sank. Yes, some vanished. But ships sank everywhere. The ocean has always been a place of death. Then, a writer named Vincent Gaddis published a 12-page article in Argosy magazine. He drew 3 dots on a map, connected them with lines, and called the shape the Bermuda Triangle. That's it. That's the origin story of one of the most feared places on Earth, a man with a pen and a deadline. But here's the twist. Gaddis didn't invent the fear. He just gave it a name, because the fear that was already there, buried in centuries of maritime legend, waiting for someone to dig it up. Go back to 1492. Christopher Columbus is sailing west into the unknown. He's 40 days from land. His crew is exhausted and near mutiny. And then something happens. His compass starts behaving strangely. The needle drifts. It no longer points true north. Later that night, he sees a light on the horizon. Not a star, not a ship. A strange, pulsing glow rising and falling above the water. Columbus writes about it in his journal. He doesn't have an explanation. In the 15th century, when the mechanics of magnetism were completely unknown, what else could it be but a sign from God, or something darker? What Columbus was actually experiencing was a well-documented phenomenon called magnetic declination, the difference between magnetic north and true north. In certain parts of the Atlantic, this gap was large enough to throw off a compass by several degrees. Perfectly natural, completely explainable. But Columbus didn't know that, and his journal entry, read centuries later, would become Exhibit A in the case for the triangle's supernatural powers. Here's another thing nobody talks about. Columbus almost certainly also witnessed bioluminescent algae that night, microscopic organisms that emit light when the water is disturbed. Sailors have reported this phenomenon for centuries. It's common in warm Atlantic waters. It looks, from a distance, exactly like a glowing light rising from the sea. So, the very first evidence of the Bermuda Triangle's mystery, it was plankton. Fast forward to 1872. The Mary Celeste is found drifting 600 miles off the coast of Portugal. 10 people on board when it left New York. 0 when it was discovered. The cargo, 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, untouched. The food still on the table. A cat, still alive, roaming the deck. No blood, no signs of struggle, no bodies, ever. Now, the Mary Celeste was found in the Atlantic, nowhere near the Bermuda Triangle. But it didn't matter. The story fused with the triangle's mythology anyway, because the public needed the mystery to be bigger than geography. What actually happened on the Mary Celeste? Most historians now believe the crew abandoned ship in a panic after one of the alcohol barrels exploded, not violently, but with enough force to blow off a hatch and convince the captain they were about to go up in flames. They boarded the lifeboat, tied it to the ship with a rope, and waited. The rope broke. The Mary Celeste drifted away. The crew, alone in a small boat in open ocean, was never seen again. Not supernatural, tragic, completely human. Then there's the USS Cyclops, 1918, a 542-foot Navy cargo ship. 306 men aboard, 10,000 tons of manganese ore in the hold. It leaves Barbados on March 4th, heading for Baltimore. Perfect weather, calm seas. It never arrives. No distress call, no debris, no survivors. To this day, it remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. Navy history. President Woodrow Wilson reportedly said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that only God and the sea know what happened to that ship. Here's what investigators have pieced together since. The Cyclops was overloaded. Its cargo, manganese ore, is extraordinarily dense, and there's evidence the ship was carrying far more than its rated capacity. One of its engines was also reported as malfunctioning before departure, and manganese ore has a known tendency, when wet, to shift violently in the hold, enough to capsize a ship in seconds. A catastrophic, sudden capsizing would explain everything. No time for a distress call, no debris field because the ship went down fast and deep, no survivors because the sinking was over in minutes. But none of that is certain, and uncertainty, in the mythology of the Triangle, always gets filled with something far more dramatic than a faulty engine. December 5th, 1945. 5 TBM. Avenger torpedo bombers take off from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale in Florida. 14 men, a routine training exercise, 2 hours, back before dinner. Their flight leader is Lieutenant Charles Taylor, experienced, decorated, over 2,500 hours of flight time. 90 minutes in, Taylor radios the tower. His voice is calm but uncertain. "Both my compasses are out. I'm over Broken Islands and I'm not sure of my position," the controller responds. Taylor responds back. And then, over the next 2 hours, something goes badly, quietly wrong. Taylor believes he's flying over the Florida Keys. He's not. He's over the Bahamas, nearly 200 miles off course. And every correction he makes, turning east, then north, then east again, takes him further out into open ocean. The final transmissions are fragmented, voices cutting in and out, and then silence. All 5 planes vanish. A rescue aircraft, a PBM Mariner with 13 men aboard, is sent after them. It also disappears. No wreckage from any of the 6 aircraft has ever been conclusively found. The Navy's official accident report concluded that the cause of the loss was unknown, but a separate addendum, less frequently quoted, noted that Taylor may have become disoriented, that he mistook the Bahamas for the Keys, and that his own corrections led him further into the Atlantic until the planes ran out of fuel. Human error on a massive, tragic scale. But here's the detail that always gets left out. TBM Avengers, the planes Flight 19 was flying, were notorious for sinking fast when they hit water, within seconds. Pilots called them turkeys. If they went down in open ocean at night, in rough seas, the wreckage would have sunk immediately and been scattered by the Gulf Stream within hours. The Gulf Stream, the powerful ocean current that runs directly through the triangle, moves at up to 5 miles per hour. Any debris from a crash in that area would be 100 miles away by morning. The triangle doesn't hide things, the ocean does. By the 1970s, the Bermuda Triangle was a full-blown global phenomenon. Charles Berlitz published his best-selling book on the subject in 1974, 20 million copies, translated into dozens of languages. Theories ranged from underwater alien bases to the lost city of Atlantis using crystal energy beams to pull ships underwater, to literal time portals. Hollywood followed, television followed, and somewhere in there, the actual statistics got completely buried, so let's dig them up. Lloyd's of London, the world's oldest and most data-driven insurance market, has been tracking maritime incidents globally for over 300 years. Their conclusion on the Bermuda Triangle is unambiguous. Ships are not lost there at a higher rate than anywhere else. Insurance premiums for crossing the triangle are identical to any other stretch of open ocean. The U.S. Coast Guard, which responds to maritime emergencies in that region, has said publicly and repeatedly, the number of incidents in the Bermuda Triangle is not remarkable given the volume of traffic, and the volume is extraordinary. The triangle sits at one of the busiest maritime and aviation crossroads on the planet. Miami, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, thousands of vessels and hundreds of flights pass through that region every single week. More traffic means more incidents. It's statistics, not sorcery. Here's the number that should end the debate. In a comprehensive analysis of maritime incidents from 1975 to 2013, researchers found that the Bermuda Triangle didn't even rank in the top 10 most dangerous ocean regions in the world. The most dangerous? The South China Sea, the Bay of Bengal, the Mediterranean, places with extreme weather, heavy piracy, or shallow reefs. The Bermuda Triangle, by comparison, is a relatively calm, deep, well-charted stretch of water. But, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting, there is something real and unusual happening beneath the surface of that part of the Atlantic. In 2016, scientists scanning the seafloor off the coast of Norway discovered massive underwater craters, some half a mile wide, 150 feet deep, formed by sudden, explosive releases of methane gas from decomposing organic matter in the sediment. The methane builds up over decades and then, without warning, erupts through the seabed in a massive bubble. Now, there is no direct evidence that this happens in the Bermuda Triangle. The geology is different, but the Atlantic seafloor in that region does contain significant methane hydrate deposits, and the physics are real. A large enough methane bubble rising from the seabed would reduce water density dramatically, potentially causing a ship above it to lose buoyancy and sink in seconds, with no warning and no time for a distress call. It's a hypothesis, not a confirmed explanation, but it's the kind of hypothesis that makes you sit with the strangeness of the ocean just a little longer. So, here's where we land. The Bermuda Triangle is not a vortex. It's not a portal. There are no alien structures on the seafloor. The lost city of Atlantis is not pulling ships into another dimension. The disappearances that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories were the result of violent weather, navigational error, overloaded vessels, fast-sinking aircraft, and an ocean current powerful enough to erase all evidence within hours. The real mystery of the Bermuda Triangle isn't what's inside it, it's what's inside us. Why did we need it to be supernatural? Why, in an age of satellites and sonar and GPS, do we still want to believe that somewhere out there, past the edge of the map, there are places that defy explanation? Maybe because the alternative is harder to sit with. The ocean doesn't need mystery to be terrifying. It's 4 miles deep in places. More of it has been mapped on other planets than on Earth. Creatures live in its depths that we have never seen alive. Entire mountain ranges sit beneath its surface, undiscovered. The Bermuda Triangle was never the unknown. It was just the ocean, doing what the ocean has always done, taking things, keeping them, and leaving us on the shore, staring out at the horizon, wondering. Every myth hides a real story. Every legend started somewhere. This channel goes there, from the creatures that haunted ancient sailors, to the beasts that still show up in police reports today. We dig past the story everyone knows and find the one nobody talks about. New episode every Friday. Subscribe and don't miss what's coming next.